What's up, everybody? Welcome into Guerilla Hockey with JJ and Jesse. I'm JJ Jerez. With me, of course, Jesse Montano. Jesse's coming to us from Edmonton. Look at Guerilla Sports here, flexing the capabilities that we have here. What's up, Jesse? Live from Edmonton. How you doing?
I'm good. Live from Edmonton. Yeah, man. I'm in my hotel. I've got an interior window here. So I'm looking into like a mall / office space. That has nothing to do with how I'm doing. It's just I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that is weird. That's crazy. Was it like a hotel that was something else and they converted it to a hotel, or was the hotel just designed that way?
Yeah.
Check out the beautiful views of this mall.
Yeah, I don't know. This might be a thing here in Edmonton because the rink's right across the street where the Avs stay is in the JW Marriott. It's in the rink. And so I don't know. This is also it's not JW, but it is a Marriott brand hotel. So I don't know. Maybe that's just Marriott's thing here in Edmonton. Like, yeah, we just look for other larger buildings that we can put hotels in.
Well, that's wild. I guess here in Colorado, we're used to hotels looking out at mountains and beautiful things. Maybe there's just a lack of beautiful things in Edmonton that they show you their beautiful architecture.
Yeah. Probably. That's probably it. I have enjoyed avoiding this weather. It was beautiful in Vancouver, British Columbia. And then it wasn't bad in Calgary. And I got here last night walking into the hotel. It was like 45 degrees-ish Fahrenheit. So I know it's not been fun back there, but it's your boy has avoided it.
Yeah, no, it has not. I've been stuck shoveling some of the heaviest snow. Now I got a back injury, Jesse, but here getting through it, fighting through the pain for this beautiful podcast of ours.
What a warrior.
But like you said, you're in Canada. Avalanche in the middle of a little road trip there. Of course, already taking down the Flames and the Vancouver Canucks. You've been with them every step of the way. I'm curious what the current vibe of the team is, right? Because we haven't been able to see the team. At least I haven't been able to see the team since the trade deadline day. Mm-hmm. You and I haven't been able to discuss the team since the trade deadline day. So what's changed in the last week with this team? What are you starting to notice now that all these new additions are in the group?
Yeah, well, so let me ask you a quick question before answering that, because I thought it was interesting. Nathan MacKinnon called that the best win of the year. For you, was that the best win of the year?
I find it hard to believe that.
Well, and it's also hard to recall every game, which is also
yeah. But I also think a late overtime win when you're down 3-0 halfway through the game. I find that hard to call the best game, at least the best 60 minutes that the Avalanche were able to put together, right? But I guess the way they were able to persevere, obviously the way they were feeling in the locker room, it changed something for MacKinnon, right? There's a newfound almost confidence, and it feels like everybody's so much more happy to be there. Just a huge weight lifted off the shoulders of the group.
Yeah, so that was kind of my thought too, because when I started discussing that with people, and I actually was even on the phone with a buddy last night, big shout out Zach, great phone call, and he said, yeah, dude, I thought that was bullshit. He goes, I didn't think that was their best game of the year. And I kind of started just thinking about it, and I was like, that is an interesting way to contextualize that. That maybe wasn't the best game. That definitely wasn't the best they've played, to your point. But, yeah, the context of the way they come back, the way they fight through the opponent it's against, I can see why Nathan MacKinnon said that. So that's part one. How the team is, this is probably, JJ, God, and I think everyone just overuses the hell out of the term vibes. This is the highest that the vibes have been around the group so far this season. There is a different energy in the locker room. There's just a different buzz. Even I asked Jared Bednar about it yesterday.
Yeah, I believe that, because it's like, I don't know, it's just optimism, right? That's what it is. It's like the players know the team better than anybody, and they know that how important the depth is, and adding people that can do a great job in different positions and what we could be lacking, like, you know, as a team going into the deadline, and then to be able to sort of fill all those spots that we wanted and add these guys and then getting them in and then watching them work and how they prepare and play. I think it just gives our team more hope. That's what it is. They know how tough the road is in front of them because they've been there. Yeah. And when you bring in quality people, and now all of a sudden we've got depth and we can move things around. There's flexibility. It gives the guys a lot of hope, and so the energy from the new guys coming in, wanting to be part of it, and what they provide, and then sort of rejuvenating the group that's been here and grinding all year long. So it's awesome. It's good to see from our team, and they're responding the right way in the games here recently.
It's kind of been the opposite of a couple of the not projects, experiment is the word I was looking for. It's kind of been the opposite of a couple of the experiments that how they went at the beginning of the year, where guys, they weren't getting them to buy in. They weren't on the same page as the rest of the group. Jared Bednar told me these guys have come in and immediately are on board, understand what the goal is, and want to jump in and do anything they can to contribute and be a part of it. And then look, like at least I think so, and I think you agree. You and I have talked about it off the air. Like, I think this is a much better, much deeper team than it was 2 weeks ago, or however far we are removed now from when these trades started falling. I think the players recognize that, and I think they appreciate the fact that 4 guys have come in here and are hoping to seize the opportunity that, JJ, you and I thought a couple of those veteran, Tomas Tatar, Ryan Johansson players would be like really galvanized to say, hey, I'm going to get a chance at this. It seems like these new guys have come in, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, this feels, and maybe to reword what Nathan MacKinnon was saying, like this feels like the best iteration of this team that we've seen maybe in 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. And I look back at the beginning of the year, I even brought this up last week with you, Jesse, at Media Day from this season, and listening to Nathan MacKinnon not only talk about the pieces that they brought in, but he also emphasized how great they were in the locker room. They're really chatty, really finding a good fit for themselves. Now I look at the guys that they've brought in, and those guys don't necessarily have that same vibe. I don't feel like they're big locker room guys. They're big guys that are coming in and chatting it up and saying, hey, let me set the vibe here in this room. But instead, they're a great fit from an X's and O's standpoint, where maybe now in hindsight we can look at the guys that they brought in over the offseason and we're the opposite, right? Great locker room guys, great fit with the group, but maybe not so much a great fit from X's and O's. I sent you a text the other day, Jesse, during the Calgary game, because it really blew my mind, right? 8 of the 12 forwards they were using in the Calgary game would be considered new as of this season, right? Weren't with the team last season. And moving forward, that's probably going to be the same thing. It's probably going to be closer to 7 out of the 12 forwards once Lehkonen gets back in, probably get Kiviranta out. You have a little bit more, I guess, consistency there. But 7 out of the 12 forwards that they're relying on right now are essentially new to this team, which to me, that it blows my mind that they're having such great success repeatedly year after year with such turnover. But it also does feel like, okay, with the current the Avs have won 7 of their last 8. They haven't lost a game since the trade deadline. It really feels like this version of the team is kind of where they've been trying to reach for a couple years now.
Yeah, I don't think the group is quite as deep as it was in 22. You and I were talking about it the other day. Like, that team was scratching Andre Burakovsky for playoff games. Like, that was a really deep group. I don't know if this one's quite on the same level, but I'm with you. This is absolutely the best roster they've had since the Stanley Cup final, and this is probably the second best roster that this core has had just in general. I want to go back really quick just to one thing you were saying, because I do think these guys are good fits in the locker room. I just don't think, like you were saying, they are the leadership type, super veteran, have been around.
Vocal ones.
Yes, exactly. I think these guys are good personality fits. But yes, I'm with you. They are not the same type of we're bringing in this veteran guy to get one more chance at it, et cetera, et cetera. But the second part of what you were saying there in terms of the turnover, we're starting to see that Chicago Blackhawks Pittsburgh Penguin model of, if you've got the core, you keep the core. You do everything you can to keep the core intact. The Avs have decided that core, is Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, Val Nichushkin, Arturi Lehkonen, and then obviously Gabe Landeskog's kind of your flex, right?
And Andrew Cogliano.
And then you could probably throw Devon Taves in there because he is now also locked up long term. They've essentially said, look, these 7 guys, 8 guys, depending on health, we're doing everything we can to keep these 8 guys. Everything else we feel that we can fill in admirably. And as long as we have these 6 to 8 guys, we feel like we're going to be in it. And that's hard, logic to argue with. The Blackhawks did that to 3 straight cups over the course of a decade. Or not 3 straight cups, but 3 cups. The Penguins have done it and saw success in 2009 and then back-to-back cups again in the late 2010s into the 2020s. Or maybe they were just in the late 2010s. And so, that's the model that Chris MacFarland, Joe Sakic are following now is keep the core and we'll find players that fit our system. And I think they've found a good mix right now. But what we've seen over the last, we'll even just say this season, honestly, Avs fans, expect this to be the blueprint going forward. They're going to try stuff. They're going to bring players in. If they don't work, they're going to move on and try to find new players to fill that role. Obviously this was a little bit of a unique situation, having a trade chip like Bowen Byram. And you hope you're not going to be needing to do major surgery on parts of your roster again, where you're needing to deal a player of that caliber. But this will kind of be the blueprint. Don't expect them to make a lot of draft picks. I know I joke around a lot, but a lot of the draft picks are going to be moved over the next 4 or 5 years. A lot of the higher end prospects, maybe not Callum Ritchie, that they've talked about him that's a guy they see with lineup potential. But I doubt Sean Barons ever plays a game for the Avs. I just think that a lot of these guys are probably going to be moved out because we are looking at the way that they are going to go about it. The Pittsburgh Penguins have the rule coming down from the owner. If 71 and 87 are on the roster, it's a going for it year. Doesn't matter. That's a year that they're going for it if those 2 guys are on the roster. They traded for Erik Karlsson last summer. They went for it, and obviously it just doesn't look like they have the team anymore, but I think that's the mode that, the Kroenkes, Chris MacFarland, Joe Sakic are moving into. If 29 and 8 are out there, we're going to push our chips to the middle.
Yeah, and it's tough sitting here all the way in Denver and following the Buffalo Sabres and kind of seeing the success that they're now having with the addition of Bowen Byram, seeing Bowen Byram kind of flourish in their lineup already. It stings a little bit, right? But it was never a secret that Bowen Byram was likely going to be a trade piece. So I think for the last 2 years, that's been a focal point of Chris MacFarland's. It's okay, eventually we're going to have to move this guy. Everybody knows that. There's no other option. We're 100% in on that. We just got to make sure whatever move that ends up being is something that pans out, is something that is that we could keep for a couple years too, to almost offset that loss of Bowen Byram. Because I think 1 for 1, it's really. I think a lot of people would even lean Bowen Byram if it's Bowen Byram versus Casey Middlestat and who'd you'd rather have on your team. But again, it was something that we always knew was coming, so it was important to make sure that they made the right trade and the right move. Not saying that it's the right trade and right move yet, but I like what I've seen out of Casey Middlestat. He got one against Calgary the other night, so it's starting to look that way. We'll continue to see how he progresses, and if he can stay as a Colorado Avalanche, that will ultimately determine the grade of that trade. But I think for now, you're feeling good. I mean, you had to crack some eggs to make this omelet, and so far the omelet is coming out delicious.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this truly might be one of the first situations, like you said, got to see how Casey Middlestat continues to pan out. But this genuinely might be one of the first situations in the last, handful of years where you see a hockey trade that on paper is good for both teams and may actually just work out to be very beneficial to both teams. Elliot Friedman talked about it on 32 Thoughts this week, the way that Bo is fitting in Buffalo. so I don't need to like fully rehash that. But I think that was a good landing spot for him in terms of where that team's at. Like, dude, he's gonna grow into a leader there. I know was Kyle Oposo their captain, or is Alex Tuck? Are they captainless right now?
I think it's Tuck.
I think you're right. It may have been a Poso, but I'll double check. But I mean, that Bowen Byram's going to be a guy that wears a letter on his chest for a long time there, I think. And then, have you watched his goals? Have you seen his plays?
Yep.
Has anything about them stood out to you?
They look a little Cale Makar-esque, don't they?
Well, they do. But what has stood out to me is that in Colorado, there wasn't a goal that Bowen Byram scored that he didn't celebrate really hard. He loves scoring goals. All 3 goals he's got in Buffalo, very calm, subdued, fist pump, whatever, very Cale Makar. And it's just all 3 of them. And all 3 have been big goals. They've come at significant points of the game. And he's been very just like, business as usual. And I've just found that very odd because it almost seemed like there was an immediate, like an overnight maturation of his game where he's like, no, I have to be on a different level now. I have to get these guys to where I'm at. I gotta take my game to a more serious level. And it's just interesting. I don't dislike people that celebrate goals hard. I was just pointing out that
no, I love it. In fact.
I do too. I love it. But I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and as you see Buffalo slowly, quietly making a push for those last wild card spots, I mean, it's kind of anybody's position at this point because nobody really seems to be thriving and grabbing it by the horn. So Buffalo could easily make a push with his addition. It definitely seems like they're a much better team, a much more confident team. But with the Avalanche, I mean, it just seems like there's a lot more happiness around this team, right? I know, again, I only got to see the one night of trade deadline play, I guess, since the trade deadline, and only got to talk to the players. But even that night, talked to Nathan MacKinnon after the Minnesota Wild game, and we've talked all year about how he's had a different vibe about him, right? He's had a different energy. He's been a little bit more loose, easier to talk to, a little bit friendlier. I saw that go up another level after Minnesota. And again, I know you talked to him the other night. I haven't seen him since then, but it seems like even Nathan MacKinnon seems to have found a certain weight off his shoulders, a pressure that's off of him. He just seems happier and more loose with this current group.
Well, man, he made the comment to us, was it after Minnesota, where he said there were times where it didn't feel great. Now it's awesome. I do, man. I just think that I'm trying to be careful about how I say this because I don't want to be complete. I think there were guys that didn't fit. I think there were guys that didn't fit. I think there was a little bit of kind of division, a little bit of division in the room. And I just think that's all gone now. And I think I don't think you had everybody pulling the rope in the same direction before. There wasn't a lot of, it's pretty easy to figure out what I'm saying here. I don't think everyone fully got along. I think relationships had frayed. And I just think that they got guys in here who are bought in, who want to win, who want to be a part of what they're doing. And are now, my favorite analogy, pulling the rope in the same direction. And the other thing, too, that maybe Nathan MacKinnon hasn't gotten enough credit for this year, because he can be prickly and stuff like that, his leadership has taken another level. Like, he is the one that is, driving the ship right now. I know everyone all year, myself included, has said that if they were going to name a temporary captain, which is something I have been told they did consider at the beginning of the year, coming out and saying we're naming a temporary captain, it would have been Cale Makar, more than likely, right? Nathan MacKinnon leads in his own way, but he is leading right now. Like, what Nathan MacKinnon is doing right now is saying, get on my back, I'm going to get us to where we need to go, but I need everybody bought in, and everyone's buying in, and it's been impressive to watch, and it's why I think they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup this year, even without Gabe, because Val Nichushkin has kind of stepped in when Val Nichushkin is in the lineup, and he's almost kind of replaced Gabe Landeskog in terms of what he brings to that top line. And Nathan MacKinnon is like I said, steering the ship right now.
Yeah, I'm with that. I mean, I guess first of all, Gabe is on the trip, right?
He is. Yep.
Have you seen him around? Mm-hmm. I guess what kind of role are you seeing him play? And do you think that maybe this whole transition into a better energy, a better vibe around the team maybe has something to do with him being around?
I don't know. Rode the elevator down with him a couple nights ago. It was a good chat with him a little bit. Man, I honestly don't know. I do think there is a level of it that, like Jared Bednar talked about earlier this year, that if you're not on the ice, if you're not in the battle, it's hard to really have a big impact on the group, have your words carry a ton of weight. I think they all love him, and I think it's nice to have him around and just have him, kind of be someone there to talk to. Honestly, I think the coaches probably benefit more from having him around. Because, he's
because 8 out of the 12 forwards are like, who is this guy?
Right. Yeah. Half the guys don't, have never played with him. Have never been there when he was on the ice. And so, I don't know. I think he's a good guy to have around all the time. I think he's a great dude. I think he's obviously a great leader. But I think a lot of what you're seeing right now is the guys in that locker room that are suiting up every night. And obviously, if Gabe can come back next season, I think that would be a massive, massive boost. Because now suddenly all these players that haven't played with him will get to play with him, and I do think he is a special player. But no, I think this is the guys. I think this is Nathan MacKinnon. I think this is Cale Makar. I think it's Casey Middlestat coming in. I think it's Val Nichushkin coming back. And dude, Mikko Rantanen gets dogged on like crazy. All season long. People on Twitter, get rid of Mikko Rantanen. They should scratch him. I saw one that said, fire Mikko Rantanen into the moon. The dude's 5th in league scoring.
I don't think you'll get much of a return from the moon either.
Right. You wouldn't get anything back. We're in, dude, we've got, 16 games to go after tonight? And he's 5th in league scoring. Mikko Rantanen is elite among the elite. Yes, he has off nights. Yes, his errors are maybe a little bit more glaring. He's not a super clean skater, but that is a guy who finds a way to produce every night. Doesn't matter. You and I joke about it all the time. Mikko Rantanen's one of the only players you can sit there and go, gosh, he was terrible. 1 goal, 3 assists. Okay, well, never mind. I have no idea what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like, he's just a player. You live with the lumps because he is super elite and has such a massive impact on this team and especially heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Mikko Rantanen is one big reason we've seen such a different team in these last 3 games. I mean, looking back at the Minnesota game, he had so much jump. He was moving his feet at a rate that I don't feel like I've seen from Mikko Rantanen his entire career. Obviously, the contributions he had in Vancouver, I think we're seeing a different version of Mikko Rantanen that we've seen all season, and he's really starting to ramp it up and pick it up here heading to the playoffs. And you look at Nathan MacKinnon, and yeah, he's contributing at least 2 points a night every single night. And some people look at that and say, well, that's not sustainable for the playoffs. But the difference you're seeing is what you just kind of touched on, is not only the buy-in from the rest of the group, but you're still seeing good hockey out of those guys, right? The other lines maybe not contributing as much as you want from a goal standpoint, but they're playing the right way. They're getting their chances, and it just looks like a dangerous team line 1 through 4, right? I mean, I know Ross Colton contributed the other night, so I think just all that combined is a perfect storm for what they need right now down this stretch. It's very reminiscent of 2022 when all of a sudden everybody got healthy and they made a powerful push towards the end of the season. Now, looking at this powerful push, and obviously all the additions have been fantastic. But putting Val Nichushkin back in that lineup, obviously, I think has been beneficial, but in my opinion, might be the biggest reason that everything seems to be feeling so right now.
Yeah, there was no player that you could have added at the deadline that was going to have the impact that Val Nichushkin has had. It's not a bad theory, dude. Like, he's jumped right back in. That first game, you and I were kind of, nudging each other and laughing like, yeah, that looks like a guy that hasn't played in 2 months. Like, he's normally, such a freak with, his fitness and getting up and down the ice, and he was dogging it a couple times. Since then,
I mean, gets the OT goal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But since then, I mean, dude, he looks like he has, since that OT goal, looks like he has not missed a beat. Has jumped right back in. Everything about him that makes him so dangerous is shining through again. The size, the speed, the skill, the finishing ability. It's so funny because he went, 93 games without an NHL goal. And now he scores goals in a way where it's just like, oh yeah, he's got that scorer's touch where the puck comes near him and it just finds its way into the back of the net. And so, I mean, dude, he's been massive for them. He is, again... I saw someone on Twitter the other day said, man, he might be a top 20 winger in the league. I was like, you're kidding. Like, I would say he's a top 10 winger in the league right now, the way he's playing. And I mean, like, he's seriously forcing his way higher and higher up that list. It feels like with every passing game, not to unpack all of this again. They probably win that Seattle series if he's there, and so he's really important for them. You hope he got everything figured out that he needed to get figured out, and that battle's behind him. It's never going to fully be behind him, right? You're constantly fighting that, but you just hope that he can be coming out the other side of that, because you see what a clear-headed, healthy Val Nichushkin looks like on the ice, and it's unbelievable, man.
Well, and with that, the whole lineup seems to be getting a little bit healthy, right? I saw your update from yesterday's practice. Lehkonen, Parise, Drouin all making their way back, and with the exception of Gabe Landeskog, that's a fully healthy group. You and I touched on last week. As a fully healthy group, right, as a fully healthy group, there's easily 23, 24 viable players that Jared Bednar has to pick from. I think tonight might be the first night he really has to make some of those decisions. But, the health of the group seems to be clicking at the right time. The group itself seems to be clicking at the right time. Heading down the stretch, I just don't think as Avalanche fans, Avalanche media, anybody surrounding the Avalanche, anyone's feeling better about this team. This has to be the best anybody's felt about this team all season long, without a doubt, no questions asked.
Totally.
I think that's something everyone can agree on, right?
I don't know who wouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is a really exciting group. I think they've got. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's part of what makes it such a bummer that LOC is also out for the rest of the season. Because, if you were able to factor him in, like you said, dude, you'd have to go 2 or 3 injuries deep before you get to a player that the large majority of people wouldn't consider an NHL regular. You know what I mean? Like, your scratch tonight could potentially be, Brandon Duhaime. That's a full-time NHL player. And he could be sitting in the press box tonight, or, Zach Parise or whomever. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to have options. And I think that's what Jared Bednar likes. He more of likes a group of 12 players he can make something out of, more than saying, this is my first line, this is my second line, this is that. And if he's got 13, 14 players to figure out what that group of 12 looks like, you mentioned it to me when they were, when the trades were coming in, like, man, that's a guy that he can match against some heavier teams. Ooh, that's a guy that he could match against some more skilled, kind of faster teams. Because that was the other issue. Man, like, again, not to bring up Ryan Johansson again and dunk on him for no reason. There just wasn't much versatility to his game. Who was Jared Bednar matching that guy with? Or what style of play was Jared Bednar saying, ooh, this is a good Ryan Johansson game? he's got players like that now. He's got options.
Yeah, but like you're saying, the loss of Logan O'Connor really kind of takes away the plethora of options by one man. I mean, Logan O'Connor's such a versatile piece, but I guess the bright side is I feel like Logan O'Connor has to be somewhat inspired by Gabe Landeskog in this situation, right? And probably approaching this whole thing with a little bit of confidence, a little bit of, just optimism that at least I'm not going through what Gabe's going through, and look how he's handling it, right? Look how Gabe is fighting through this, working hard every day to rehab himself, still bringing a good energy, still bringing a good just presence to the group. I think Logan O'Connor's probably at least inspired by that, so that helps. But looking last week, we even mentioned how this is probably going to be the time where Jared Bednar starts really experimenting with those lines, right? Depending on matchups, like you said, depending on who the opponent is. The other night we saw a line full of the new guys with Duhaime, Middlestat, and Trenin. What did you think of Jared Bednar just saying, you know what, hey, 3 new guys, let's see what you guys got? And I thought together they actually made a pretty good combination.
Yeah, I think outside of Middlestat, I think Duhaime and Trenin, I'm really anxious when this group gets fully healthy because I think he's going to skate Trenin full-time with Miles Wood and Ross Colton, and that just seems like such a pain-in-the-ass line to have to play against. And so, I think he brought in a couple of these guys that kind of fit together well as it is, and so that he has that option to cool, I'm just going to stick these guys together. Even though it may not be perfect, I know that they're going to feed off each other well. They're going to use each other's energy. And kind of help push each other a bit. So again, I just think that a lot of it was strategic. I kind of stole his phrase a second ago, but Chris McFarland told us Jared likes to have a bottom 6 more than he likes to have a third and fourth line. And so I think, that's kind of what he's got right now. He's got guys that it's put them together in any combination and it's probably going to come out all right. So, that just kind of adds to it, and it's part of what I think makes Jared Bednar such a good coach, and it's part of what made the Avs so difficult to match up against 2 playoffs ago when the roster felt very similar to this, was because it was ooh, okay, you've won a couple hard matchups against the McKinnon line. Okay, well, what if I take Mikko Rantanen and put him with Casey Middlestat? Now what are you going to do? And what if I put Val Nichushkin up with Nathan McKinnon and Jonathan Drouin, and I move Lehkonen down to that second line? All right, how do you fumble with that? Oh, and make sure you're staying on top of the fact that I'm now double shifting Nathan McKinnon with Andrew Cogliano and Zach Parise. It just becomes very difficult to keep the defenders out there against certain players that you want and checking forwards out there against certain players that you want. And oh, by the way, you maybe have the best offensive threat on the ice on any given shift depending on who you put out there on the back end. So the combination of forwards that he's got right now is going to allow Jared Bednar to get creative with his matchups and his lines in that exact way. And I think it's going to start causing some real headaches for opposing coaches, just like it did a couple years ago.
Well, we always joke and comment about how Jared Bednar has a type, right? There's a certain Jared Bednar type of player.
There's a Bednar player, yeah.
And obviously there's a benefit to filling the team with that type of player because you can do exactly what you're mentioning. You can mix and match. And then we've seen throughout the years a player comes to the Avalanche and suddenly starts putting up career highs, not only because of who he's playing with, but the way he's being utilized. Yep. So I think you're right. Jared Bednar is absolutely going to have a luxury this offseason and the rest of this regular season to have danger on the bottom 6 because of all the guys that he has that are perfectly formed to fit his style, right? That high speed, high energy. I mean, Zach Parise, we could say what you want about his age, but he is just the epitome of a Jared Bednar guy. And
totally.
If you just keep adding guys like that, which they did, I mean, you're nonstop throwing difficult situations at the opponent.
Yeah.
All night long, no matter what line's out there.
Well, and difficult situations, offensive threats, et cetera, et cetera. Well, and then the other thing with it, too, is in the playoffs, you see teams start to, they shorten the bench, right? You got to get just your best players out there, in these kind of crucial moments. Well, the deeper your team is, one, the fewer players that allows you to shorten, right, to kind of cut out. you're probably onto 2-3 guys if you have the right depth that, hey, you're probably not going to play much this period. And it also allows you to go longer without having to start shortening that bench. Maybe instead of halfway through the second, you can wait till 5 minutes into the third. And we're here in Edmonton. Let's go back to that Western Conference final 2 years ago where the Avs really kind of had their way with the Oilers. And I really go back to it. That was what happened. Leon Draisaitl was hurt. Connor McDavid was already playing like crazy. And Jay Woodcroft, by the 10-minute mark of the second period, was, literally rolling McDavid line, Draisaitl line, McDavid line, Draisaitl line, McDavid line, Draisaitl line. We'll throw in the third line, McDavid, Draisaitl. And it was like they just couldn't keep up. And as those games wore on longer and longer, the Avs just pulled away night after night because Jared Bednar was able to run 4 lines until there was 10 minutes left in the third period. Then he'd cut out a couple guys, but he still felt very comfortable rolling Andrew Cogliano, Logan O'Connor, Darren Helm out there. And the Oilers had 2 lines that were at 28 minutes, and the Avs had, 3 lines that were all between 16 and 21, and 1 line that was, 12. The math is pretty easy to figure out there, and this is, again, what the Avs are potentially going to have the luxury to do.
Yeah, we haven't talked much about Sean Walker at all today. Obviously, that other piece. He's on the defensive end, a little more stable of a group, right? Not as much turnover that we've seen in that defense. Those guys have been here forever. But I think we're liking the physicality out of Sean Walker. What are you seeing through 3 games that has made him a good fit too? Skating.
Really strong skater. Can get the puck up ice. Plays the exact type of way the Avs like to play. And Nathan McKinnon, that was another one that he called out the other night saying, wow, what a fit Sean Walker has been. He's just perfect in that spot. So he's another player that, like, I said this on Fox 31 a couple nights ago, that Bowen Byram was maybe, like, when he was at his best, he was maybe too good for that position. You know what I mean? Like, just because it was the best that we saw him play. In the Cup final, that wasn't a second-pairing defenseman. It wasn't. That was a defenseman that's a top-pairing guy that should be running a power play 1. The issue is he hasn't gotten back to that level since the Cup final. That was why he was maybe the most, expendable guy. But, like, for me, I think Sean Walker is perfect for that. He can play next to Sam Girard as a righty. I just think it's a really, really nice fit. He's maybe not as good of a player as Bowen Byram. His ceiling maybe isn't as high. He's maybe a little bit older, but I think he's perfectly cast for that role.
No, I think that's well put and spot on. That's perfectly explained. It's not that. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That was well put.
Well, now I want to hear what you had to say. It's not that what?
It's not that Bo wasn't a good fit where he was, but he just had too much to bring to that table, right? Whereas Sean Walker is more, that's his role, and he's kind of been in that role seemingly his whole career. He knows exactly how to run with it. Where now Bowen Byram, we're seeing him flourish because he's relieved from that second pairing, maybe even sometimes third pairing, and now he can just be a guy that shows his skill rather than having to play a specific type of role, maybe a little more defensively safe, right?
Yep, totally.
The next thing I wanted to get to was Alexander Georgiev, right? I think not that he's playing phenomenal, not that he's playing bad, but one thing I'm noticing from Alexander Georgiev right now is that the first half of the game and the second half of the game for him have been completely different, right? We've seen the Avalanche give up that first goal a few times of the game, sometimes even early on in the first period, and then Alexander Georgiev shuts the door. Or like you and I commented after the Minnesota game in our post game, he makes one signature save, and suddenly that builds his confidence and builds his momentum for the rest of the night. It's just a curious way that Georgiev's playing. He's playing well. I love what I'm seeing. But if he can match that first part of the game with his second part, I mean, we might be seeing shutouts every night.
Well, and
I joke. It's an exaggeration.
And my thing is, what you just said. You need the one big save. He needs to make one more save than the other guy right now, and that's what he's doing. What I liked about that game the other night in Vancouver, you don't love the start. 2 goals on 2 shots. You don't love that. And then, truthfully, and I had just sent a tweet. He made a big save that kept it 2-0. And wow, that's a big save to keep it 2-0. Give credit to Georgiev. Send. 5, 4, 3. And the Canucks scored. I was like, oh, okay, well, never mind. And they scored on a goal that you really didn't like either. He had a clean look at it, and it just beat him. But what I liked about that was he shut the door the rest of the way. As the Avs started to climb back in it, he slammed the door and said, okay, you guys are giving me a chance. I'm going to give you a chance. And, I go back to the one bad Ivan Prosvetov game. The one actually bad Ivan Prosvetov game. And that was his issue. He gave up 3 bad goals early. The Avs fought all the way to come back, and he gave up 2 more bad goals. And that was just, that clearly became a moment where they were like, okay, we can't have you do that. Because what we've seen out of Georgiev recently is, I may not be perfect, like you said in the first half, but if you guys are going to give me a fighting chance, I'm going to keep us in the game and give you guys a fighting chance. And that's all the Avs are asking for. That's all Darcy Kemper did for them. If Alexander Georgiev can, like you said, clean up the first half a little bit, but really just kind of stay on this trajectory, that's all the Avs need. Be good enough, make one more save than the other guy at the other end, and he made 2 really big saves when it was 3-3, and Thatcher Demko couldn't find the puck in the back half of that game. So credit to Georgiev for sure.
Yeah, you're right. He's letting in some goals that you don't like, maybe some saves that he should have, but then some of the saves he's making are saves he shouldn't have, right? So I think as long as the latter kind of outweighs the former, you're in good shape. Let's look tonight. Edmonton Oilers. Finally, the Avalanche haven't seen the Edmonton Oilers all season. I think that's insane. They're saving it for hockey night in Canada, and then, of course, we'll see them a couple more times throughout the rest of the year. So this being the first time these two teams meet, what are you expecting tonight? Are you expecting to see the Edmonton Oilers from earlier in the season, the ones that tend to slide? Are you expecting a good match, or should the Avalanche really kind of take it to them like they did in the Western Conference Finals in 22?
Look, anyone who has followed me for the last few years knows that I think the Oilers are the ultimate pretenders. I don't think they're for real cup contenders. Do I think the Avs are a better team? Yes. I think the Oilers' depth is not what it's advertised to be. I think their defense is nowhere near Stanley Cup caliber, and they have massive question marks in net. That all being said, Zach Hyman's on the cusp of 50-goal season. You got Connor McDavid. You got Leon Draisaitl. Evander Kane is still a goal scorer. They've got, threats, right? Evan Bouchard has a huge shot from up high. I'm expecting this to be a playoff atmosphere. We had to come to Alberta, then leave Alberta, and come back to Alberta so that this could be on Hockey Night in Canada. I think... Look, the Oilers, I don't trust teams that streak the way that the Oilers do. They're terrible, then they're really good, then they're bad, then they're really good. After that almost record-setting win streak, they lost, I think it was like 5 of 7, and then they went 8 straight games where they won 1, lost 1. I don't trust teams like that. But I do. I think this is going to be a night where the Avs are going to be out to show we are still the team to beat in the West. The West still goes through Colorado, and we feel that even more so after the deadline. And I think the Oilers are going to be out to prove we are a legit Cup team. The last time we felt like we were a legit Cup team, this team embarrassed us in the Western Conference Final. Look, call a spade a spade. That winning streak they had, impressive, no doubt. It's hard to win that many games in the NHL in a row. I didn't realize it till people had pointed it out when they lost to the Vegas Golden Knights. They said, oh, wow, imagine that. It's the first actual team they've played, and they lose. And I went back and looked. In that 17-game win streak, they played like 3 playoff teams, for real. It was not a tough stretch. So I think the Oilers are kind of out to prove tonight, or going to be out to prove tonight, we are a good team. We are one of the top teams in the league. We don't just beat bad teams. I know that they both downplay it, but Nathan MacKinnon going head-to-head with Connor McDavid, that's a thing. Like, it is going to be a thing.
Yeah, I think this is a chance for the Avalanche to really flex those muscles, right? I think beating Calgary the way they did was cool, but Minnesota took overtime. Vancouver took overtime. I think this is the night where the Avalanche have to kind of show, okay, we have 4 potent lines where you guys only have 2. This is how we're going to beat you with our bottom 6, kind of like we've talked about all show. And then with the Central Division standings being where they are, I mean, it feels like we're going to kind of be in playoff mode for the rest of the season here. Of course, Avalanche, Winnipeg, and Dallas all tied at 89 points. Winnipeg has the upper hand on the Avalanche with a game in hand and 2 games in hand on Dallas, but it's going to be a fun stretch, and we're going to be seeing playoff-type atmosphere. So when it's actually against a playoff-type team, I mean, I think we're all in for a real treat tonight on Hockey Night in Canada, even though we don't really get to watch it here in the States. You got to stream that.
I'll go stand behind the Hockey Night booth and just FaceTime you. But you know, man, I do think that, to your point, there's a little bit of a statement to be made here for the Avs if they can pull out a win. We went into their barn and we knocked off a team handily in the Calgary Flames who are fighting to get into a playoff spot. We then came back on the best team in the West, and this would just be kind of another, nail in the we're here for real of, and then we came in and we knocked off Connor McDavid on Hockey Night in Canada. Like, I do think that this would be a message-sending win for the Avs tonight, for sure.
Right on. Well, that's all I have for us today. Jesse, anything you want to get off your chest before we get out of here? And this has been awesome. I love the way that we were able to make this happen, me being here in Denver in the studio, you being in Edmonton, and we connected just fine and produced another great podcast. No thanks to Evan.
Yeah, Evan unavailable. I think it's the snow. I think it's just too much snow. He couldn't handle it.
The snow killed us for a day. I'm not going to lie. Was bad timing for my life.
Yeah, I'm not sad that I missed that. But also another shout out to Mark. I know he's got a short film that he's working on after this. So big shout out to him for coming in and helping us pull this all together. But no, I don't think I've really got anything else. Yeah, that's it for now, man. Looking forward to this one tonight.
Yep. And then the road trip's not over. They got St. Louis next week, and then you and I will both be back here recording in studio as we settle in at home.
And it won't be me in St. Louis. It'll be JJ and our guy Jay out there bringing you guys all that content out there. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm not. I like doing it with you. Doing it by myself is a little bit scary, especially on the road. But no, we'll get through.
Can everyone leave some comments and tell? Because I have to tell JJ constantly that he's good at this job, and he just thinks that he's like the worst at it. So just let him know. Let him know if you think he sucks or if he's good. Yeah, just let him know. Just really put his mental health to the test here. No, I'm kidding.
Well, and also check out Jesse's This Is Fun podcast. I know you had a conversation with Romy Bean about that very thing, and that really resonated with me, right? None of us really being those journalistic, I guess, cutouts.
Sure, that works.
There I go.
Yeah.
I'm proving my point as I speak. Yeah, not the typical mold of a journalist, but here we are doing the job anyway. But yeah. That's all for today. Thanks for hanging out with us on this version of Guerilla Hockey with JJ and Jesse. We'll see you guys next week.